what's your fondest memory for winning age group national titles?
I think I've got two. The first one was real interesting. So we won and broke a national record in Timaru in winning the Hatch Cup. And the record obviously has been around for a long time because it's a 100-year tournament. So that night we asked the boys what they'd like to do. We had a team dinner and all that, and they said they wanted to stay up all night. So it was really interesting. They stayed up all night. Obviously, me and the manager and assistant coach, Steve Holmes and Dave Moss, had to stay up all night as well to make sure that we were looking after them in the hostel, Timaru Girls High School. So they had an all-nighter, lots of fun, obviously lots of times on devices which they didn't have too much access to. And then the week later, we had an Auckland prize giving, and I saw some of the boys from the team, and I said to them, "So, what was your greatest memory from winning the Hitch Cup?" And to a person, they all said having the all-nighter. So it sort of tells you a little bit about the age group. That's the first memory. The second memory was a player I had in the team that year didn't get huge amounts of game time relative to the other players for all sorts of reasons. But for me, the highlight, and I kept this on my screensaver on my computer for a year after that, and it was reminded to me, was that he was, at the end of the ceremony when he was given his medal, he went out into the middle of the turf and he stood there like this and was just loving the fact that he had won this national title. So for me, that was a reminder that sometimes in life, people criticize, encouraging winning, encouraging competing. And what it told me was that, there are some people that will go through their sporting careers and whether they are club level players or higher, and they might not ever win anything. So it is important to celebrate at whatever level if you've won something, because for some people that might be the only time they cross the stage. And so that was a good reminder.
So what was your biggest learning from that age group?
I think the biggest learning from that age group for me, and I was lucky, I guess, I started as an accountant out of university, and through serving my club and taking a junior team, I got a love for coaching, and so I became a teacher. So I did it a little bit in reverse, accountant, coach, teacher, as opposed to teacher, coach.
Yeah.
And I think what I learned over a period of sort of probably 30 years was that the key thing in any level of coaching was learning, having a learning environment and a fun environment, and getting the balance right. So as you go up the levels to international hockey, then the fun element is still really important. And I had lots of fun with the teams at that level, but at the bottom end, when you're starting with kids, that the learning environment must be important. So how I translate that is that after every session, I wanted to be able to ask a question of the players, and that question would be, A, did you have fun today? And B, do you feel that after today's session you got better? Were you better than last week? Were you better than the weekend? And I'd always ask that question in some way or fashion with some player in the group, and as long as that was a positive answer, I knew I was on the right track. That's very important, that they feel that they're mastering a skill and mastering the game and getting better individually. Now that might mean that they do a run with you around the park or whatever it was, and this week they ran it 40 seconds faster or 20 seconds faster, but it's still mastering, and being better than you were yesterday.
How do you encourage that success and that winning sort of mentality when the focus has always been or predominantly around learning and having fun? How do you make sure that we still have successful people at that level?
I think it's important for everyone to understand that the most malleable age group to sort of mould and teach is probably in that age group from sort of 9, 10 through to around 14. I think post that it's pretty difficult to change things, change people's thinking. So it is a good age group to get the attitudes right, the values right, and teach things. So the age group is important understanding that you've got them, you need to capture them. So have the fun, have the learning. Really important that they're malleable. I think that's a real key element to all of it. But having said that, when you take an adult team, an NHL team or an international team, then does that really change fun and learning? Probably not. It's just in a different guise, right? So I think that's probably the key point for me is understand the group you're working with, understand their strengths, understand their weaknesses.